And now to a large recall from General Motors. It involves 600,000 vehicles whose V8 engines can fail without warning.
Did you know GM is so embarrassed by their V8 disaster, they stopped putting the badge on the truck? 877,000 vehicles, 28,000 failed engines, and a brand new 2027 announcement that proves this crisis is far from over. Here's what they don't want you to know. Let's set the scene. You walk into a Chevy dealership in 2026. You want a full-size truck or SUV with a powerful V8. You've got the budget, you're ready to buy, and the salesperson, they can barely look you in the eye, because here's what they know that you don't. The 6.2 L87 V8, the engine that was supposed to be GM's crown jewel, has become one of the most catastrophic engine failures in modern automotive history. We're not talking about a minor oil leak. We're not talking about a check engine light. We're talking about connecting rods punching through engine blocks. We're talking about engines seizing at highway speed with zero warning. We're talking about families stranded on the side of the road in brand new $100,000 SUVs. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the NHTSA, launched a full investigation in early 2025, and what they found was staggering. Over 877,000 vehicles were flagged. 877,000. That's not a recall. That's a national automotive crisis. And it took GM receiving more than 28,000 individual engine failure reports before their CEO, Mary Barra, finally decided to act. Let that sink in. 28,000 engines failed before a single recall was issued. The recall eventually covered over 600,000 vehicles. Silverados, Sierras, Tahoes, Suburbans, all running the same ticking time bomb under the hood. And here's something that makes this even more outrageous. These aren't budget vehicles. These aren't entry-level commuter cars. These are premium American trucks and SUVs that families spent their life savings on. People who trusted the GM name. People who believed the marketing. People who thought they were buying reliability and power, and instead got a lawsuit waiting to happen. And the worst part, the fix they came up with, it might not even be a fix at all. So here's what GM did. When vehicles came in under the recall, technicians ran a diagnostic test on the engine. Based on the results, they either replaced the engine entirely or they simply switched the oil weight. That's it. They went from 0W20 oil to 0W40 oil. Now, for anyone who knows engines, that's a 10-point viscosity jump on the warm end. And while that might provide slightly more film strength at operating temperature, it does almost nothing to address the root cause of why these engines were failing in the first place. A 5W30 would have been a more balanced approach. Better cold start protection, better warm running support. But even that wouldn't have solved the underlying engineering problem, because this was never really an oil problem. This was a design and manufacturing problem that GM tried to paper over with a different grade of oil. And here's where it gets really ugly. Owners who had their engines replaced under the recall, brand new engines mind you, are now reporting the exact same symptoms. The same loss of power, the same knocking, the same catastrophic failures. One owner of a Yukon Denali Ultimate, a vehicle that costs well over $90,000, had their engine tested during the recall, passed the test, and then weeks later, the engine completely died. Another owner filmed their truck losing all forward propulsion while driving down a busy highway. No warning, no gradual decline, just nothing. Driving my truck and the engine light came on, and I just lost all my forward propulsion. That's the same thing that happened before they addressed this recall and rebuilt his engine, and I had to coast into the side road. These aren't isolated incidents. These are patterns, and the federal government knows it. The NHTSA is now actively investigating whether GM's recall fix was itself a failure. Think about that. The government is investigating whether the solution to the problem is also a problem. And while all of this is happening behind the scenes, while lawyers are filing paperwork and federal investigators are reviewing data, GM is doing something at the dealership level that most buyers would never even notice. Something that, once you see it, completely changes how you look at every Chevy and GMC on the lot. GM spent years building a reputation on powerful, reliable American V8s. And right now, in 2026, that reputation is in free fall. And the evidence is hiding in plain sight, right there on the dealership lot. What's hiding on the lot? Here's something most car buyers would never notice. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Walk down any row of brand new Chevy Silverados at a dealership right now. Look at the hoods. You'll see TurboMax badges. You'll see Duramax badges. You'll see Z71 badges. But you know what? You won't see a 6.2 badge anywhere. GM used to be proud of that 6.2-liter V8. They used to slap a big bold badge right on the side of the truck. It was a selling point. It was a status symbol. It meant you had the most powerful, most premium gas engine in the lineup. Now they've quietly removed it. No badge, no promotion, no mention on the hood. It's like GM is trying to pretend the engine doesn't exist, while still selling it inside vehicles that cost over $100,000. And it's not just the badge that's missing, the trucks themselves are missing. Walk an entire dealership lot, and you will struggle to find a single new Silverado or Sierra with the 6.2-liter V8 in stock. The only place you're likely to find one, parked in front of the service department, waiting on yet another engine replacement. Meanwhile, GM is pushing customers toward the 5.3-liter V8, which by the way also has no hood badge on the Chevy side, or they're steering buyers toward the turbocharged 4-cylinder TurboMax engines in a full-size truck. A 4-cylinder. Now, look, the TurboMax is actually a solid engine. We'll get to that. But the fact that GM is replacing a 6.2 V8 with a 4-cylinder in their flagship trucks tells you everything you need to know about where their confidence in their own V8 program currently stands. Interestingly, GMC does still badge the 5.3 on some of their Sierra models, almost like they're using it as a luxury differentiator, as if to say, hey, at least this one isn't the engine that's destroying itself. But on the Chevy side, nothing. No badge, no pride, just a blank hood and a window sticker you have to squint at to figure out what engine you're even buying. And then there's the pricing situation, which is where this whole thing becomes absolutely infuriating for anyone who already bought one of these vehicles. A 2026 Chevy Suburban High Country with a 6.2-liter V8, $100,600. A Chevy Tahoe High Country with the same engine, $88,580. These are six-figure family vehicles, and the engine inside them is under federal investigation. You are paying over $100,000 for an engine that the federal government is actively questioning the safety of. Let that sink in. If you're finding this information helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe. The price of trust. Let's talk about what this actually means for real people. You saved up. You did your research. You bought the top trim. You wanted the best engine available in your new Chevy Suburban or Tahoe. You paid over $100,000 for a vehicle that was supposed to last your family for years. And then, somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000 miles, the engine just stops. Not a warning, not a gradual decline, just gone. You don't know if it'll happen at mile 500 or mile 50,000. You don't know if you'll be 5 minutes from home or 5 hours from the nearest dealership. The failure is completely unpredictable, and that unpredictability is arguably worse than the failure itself, because it means you can never fully trust the vehicle you're driving. And what does GM offer you? A replacement engine. The same engine. The one that's already been proven to fail. The one that owners are reporting is failing again after replacement. At what point do you stop accepting a new engine and start demanding a buyback? Because here's the reality. GM's own certified pre-owned program, their warranty, their service departments, they are all being overwhelmed by this single engine. Mechanics are backed up. Wait times for replacement engines are stretching into weeks and months. And customers are left without their vehicles, without answers, and without any real confidence that the next engine will be any different. And let's not forget, while your truck is sitting in the service bay for 6 weeks waiting on a replacement engine, you still owe the monthly payment. You're still paying insurance on a vehicle you can't drive. GM doesn't pause your loan while they fix their mistake. This is what a trust collapse looks like in the automotive industry. And GM is living it in real time. The engines GM got right. Now, to be fair, this isn't a story about GM getting everything wrong, because there are two engines in their current lineup that are genuinely impressive, and understanding why they work makes it even more frustrating that the V8 trucks don't. First, the 2.7-liter TurboMax 4-cylinder. This engine is in the Chevy Colorado and the GMC Canyon, and it is an engineering achievement. It runs up to 28 pounds per square inch of boost in a 4-cylinder. It produces 310 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque in the 2026 models, and it has been tested to handle that kind of stress reliably over the long term. The engineers who built this engine clearly cared about getting it right. They stress-tested it. They over-engineered it. they built in margins for reliability, and it shows because Colorado and Canyon owners are not flooding forums with engine failure stories. They're out on trails, they're towing, they're daily driving, and the engines just keep running. That's what good engineering looks like. And then there's the other engine GM absolutely nailed, the 6.2-liter V8 in the C8 Corvette. Same displacement, same basic architecture family, virtually indestructible. Corvette owners are not reporting connecting rods through the block. They're not getting stranded on highways. The Corvette 6.2 is widely regarded as one of the best naturally aspirated V8s in production today. So, how does the same company with the same displacement engine get it so catastrophically wrong in trucks and SUVs while getting it so perfectly right in the Corvette? The answer is simple and damning. Different teams, different standards, different levels of care in engineering and manufacturing quality control. The Corvette team built an engine like it mattered, like their reputation depended on it, because it did. The truck engine team, somewhere along the line, cut corners, prioritized production volume over precision, and 877,000 vehicle owners are now paying the price for decisions made in a boardroom, not an engineering lab. And that contrast between what GM can do and what GM chose to do is what makes this whole situation so infuriating. What comes next for GM? So, where does GM go from here? Because they can't keep selling a recalled engine forever. They can't keep replacing engines with the same engines that keep failing. Something has to change, and it looks like something finally is. Chevrolet just revealed the new 2027 Corvette Grand Sport, and with it, an all-new 6.7-liter V8. This engine produces 535 horsepower and 520 pound-feet of torque through a new 8-speed dual-clutch gearbox. It is the launch of what GM is calling their next generation of V8 architecture. Now, when this was announced, the internet went wild with rumors that this 6.7 was heading straight into the Silverado and Sierra. And honestly, that would make sense. Take your best engine, put it in your best-selling vehicles, fix the disaster. Clean slate, new chapter. But GM squashed that rumor fast. Official materials confirmed that the 2027 Silverado and Sierra will actually receive a 6.6-liter V8, part of the new generation, 6 small block family, not the Corvette 6.7, a related but distinct engine built to different specifications for a different application. GM's own press release was careful with its wording, saying the new architecture will benefit other V8 Chevrolets, not that it will be directly transplanted into them. Translation: the lessons learned from the Corvette engine will influence the new truck engines, but they won't be the same engine. And whether those lessons are actually applied, or whether cost-cutting and production pressure win out again, is the real question nobody at GM is answering right now. Because the pattern here is clear. GM has the engineering talent to build world-class engines. The Corvette proves that. The Turbo Max proves that. But when it comes to mass-producing V8s for their highest volume, highest revenue vehicles, something keeps going wrong. And until GM addresses that systemic problem at the manufacturing and quality control level, a new displacement number on a press release doesn't mean much. The 6.2 L87 V8 era in GM trucks is effectively over. The question is whether what replaces it will be built with the same care as the Corvette, or the same carelessness as the engine it's replacing. What buyers should do right now. So, if you're in the market for a GM truck or SUV right now, what do you actually do? Here's the breakdown. If you want a full-size GM truck and you want a gas V8, your safest bet right now is the 6.6-liter gasoline V8, not the 6.2, the 6.6. It's in the heavy-duty 2,500 and 3,500 trucks. It has not shown the same catastrophic failure patterns as the L87, and it's a proven workhorse engine. If you want a half-ton truck and you're open to alternatives, seriously consider the 2.7-liter Turbo Max. Yes, it's a 4-cylinder, but it makes more torque than the old 5.3 V8. It gets better fuel economy, and the engineering behind it is genuinely solid. If you absolutely want the 5.3 V8, just know what you're getting into. The 5.3 has had its own history of lifter failures and cylinder deactivation issues. Many owners have resolved those problems by deleting the active fuel management system. It's not as catastrophic as the 6.2 situation, but it's not without risk. And if someone tries to sell you a new 6.2 L87 V8 in a half-ton truck or full-size SUV right now, walk away. Or at minimum, demand a full written warranty commitment. Understand your buyback rights under your state's lemon law, and go in with eyes wide open. Because the data is clear, the federal investigation is real, and 28,000 engine failures don't lie. You work too hard for your money to hand it over for an engine that GM itself is no longer willing to put its name on. 28,000 failures? A recall that didn't work. Six-figure trucks still breaking down. GM's V8 era is collapsing, and now you know why. Have you dealt with GM on this engine failure? A recall that did nothing? Drop it in the comments. Let's build the most honest GM owner thread on YouTube. And if you found this video helpful, smash that like button and subscribe for more auto content.